Are into Champion Select for game number 1. Let's see how they started off.
You gotta love the respect band going over to Huhi. Gonna take that Aurelion Soul off the table. He's also been playing a lot of Vel'Koz, pretty much the only guy really playing these two champions at the highest level right now.
And one of the tactics that TSM actually took against Team Dignitas was focusing on Keane's champion pool and banning out some mid laners. But Team Dignitas here are going on the offensive very early.
Yeah, definitely hitting Huhi. Like you said, Azael, he's one of the only players that you're seeing playing Aurelion Soul, playing Vel'Koz, and demanding for your opponents to ban those specialty picks away means typical bans are going to go through.
Exactly. So even if he doesn't get to play them and doesn't have success on the champions, you're hoping that Darshan or the bottom laner are going to be able to get more of an advantage from the pick ban because of the focus that's being put on Huhi.
Rakan also banned away now by Team Dignitas, rounding out their final ban for this first phase as CLG bans out Zac, Kalista, and Maokai.
Thresh being available here could be a pretty big pick for Adrian. He has been very, very good on the champion. Was actually critical in their one win against TSM in the semifinals on the champion as well.
As well, we'll probably be seeing the Gragas and Jarvan traded here, maybe split up. I don't think CLG would want to dump 2 of their picks, even though that is a very flexible duo to kind of take away and deny from the opponent team. They have been really, really focusing on actually getting that Xayah, though. Let's see if they still want it with Rakan banned out. As you said, there are multiple partners you can put with the Xayah still available.
Well, they do know they're going to be up against that Tristana there in the bottom lane, but CLG will be quick to lock into Jarvan for themselves.
Yeah, we might see a Thresh pick here up for Aphromoo. I mean, I think denying that away could be big, but they're going to elect to go for the Kog'Maw straight up. And maybe they want to lean more towards something like a Lulu or a Janna, something a bit more defensive, a bit more protective.
The old Ardent Sensor is pretty popular right now.
Ardent Sensor abusers, we know how powerful that item can be, especially on an AD carry that synergizes well with the buff. Kog'Maw, definitely a huge user of that. As Dignitas now, 2 more picks to go. One of those is Elise for the jungle.
All right, Shrimp going to get a little bit more early power here on the Elise to try and get this game started off for Team Dignitas. Let's see what else they're going to grab up here. Adrian has had really, really good games on Thresh, being the primary initiator for his team. Actually made the death sentence look like a very reliable initiation tool, which is rare to see.
CLG does get the opportunity, though, to actually, choose their support second, so they could go for something more defensive if they want to go for a melee support like Tahm Kench. That can actually be used pretty well as an answer to the Thresh, but they are going to elect to go for their mid laner here, a blind pick Lucian for Huhi. Wow.
And we have seen this strategy come into the forefront a bit more recently, where the red side will draft their mid laner before the second wave of bans comes in, trying to get an edge in that, then ban out some of the counters to it. We are going to see Counter Logic Gaming focus that mid lane in the second part of the bans here. Cassiopeia banned away first by them. Gnar for Team Dignitas.
And the thing about Team Dignitas' early picks here, the Elise and the Thresh were kind of part of the key that they used versus TSM to grab their single victory they got in that series. It was the chain CC. Adrian starts it off with the death sentence. Shrimp was able to land Cocoon on that, and then they had Taliyah to create distance and get the knockback. But here, it's an early Lucian pick, which has been favorable into the Taliyah, as we've seen on multiple occasions.
Counter Logic Gaming banning out Renekton as their last ban of this draft, giving some respect towards both the solo laners of Team Dignitas. And you cannot not respect Ssumday, because we've seen this guy carry games before. So seeing them throw some attention out there, not super surprising. Dignitas bans out Braum, their final option.
Now, there is still Syndra available, Orianna available, the 2 most played mid laners for Keane. And both those can work out pretty well against the Lucian.
Or maybe Keane has taken after Crown and put in a lot of extra practice time on the Taliyah in case there is one of these blind pick Lucians.
Well, let's see what CLG goes for here. Morgana opted in for the support role.
It's going to be interesting to see what masteries Aphromoo actually goes for. Some people are going for wind speakers. Actually, we've seen that before. We've also seen Stoneborn Pact to actually activate the Ardent Sensor, which is so popular right now. Either way, this is a pretty good answer to the CC chaining compositions that you had talked about, Kobe. Answers both the Elise and the Thresh pretty well.
Definitely key there, the combo breaker. And this is actually a classic for Aphromoo. He's been playing this champion for years upon years. He's very good Black Shield timing, and he's going to need it here because there are 2 members that will be possible targets for the enemy CC, and he's going to have to stay flexible with that targeting.
One of the big concerns for me always about Morgana is kind of the inconsistency, though, of her laning phase, because if you do miss that Dark Binding, you are so susceptible to actually being jumped on by this enemy team.
And with this final pick from Team Dignitas, their composition will be all the way locked in. That Taliyah that you talked about being successful against TSM, along with the Elise, along with the Thresh, they recognize that success and they're looking to repeat it.
We do have the possibility of a top lane counter pick here for Darshan. If he wanted to go for something aggressive, something like a split pusher, you can see those picked into Shen. Things like Fiora are still actually pretty workable with the more recent buffs.
Yeah, the Jarvan definitely is flexible.
Okay.
They could have it for Darshan, and they do get the OmarGod Sejuani here to have a front line.
Nice tanky front line on the side of CLG to protect that Kog'Maw and that Lucian, as well as the Morgana to keep them out of trouble from the CC. But like we've mentioned, Team Dignitas, look at the amount of CC and the amount of pick on this squad.
And a lot of it could be directed at that bottom lane. Azael was talking about how important that will be for Team Dignitas. There will be early Elise visits down there. Shen, post level 6, gets the teleport. And Keane, if he can ever buy some lane control in this matchup, Taliyah, one of the best at roaming.
Yeah, you really could see 5-man plays on the bot side, and when you consider how important it is for Stixxay to have a good game on this Kog'Maw, as really some of the only consistent damage, some of the only mixed damage coming out of this team, 5-man plays down there could be the name of the game for Dignitas.
And Kog'Maw is one of these champions. You're not looking at something like an Ashe or a Sivir that's going to have team fight contribution outside of being ahead and dealing damage. This champion is damage, 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 and a little bit more damage on top of it. He's got to be ahead. He's got to be relevant. And if not, Dignitas will find their victory through that pick condition.
I'll be very excited to see how Shrimp is going to play the early game. If he can actually get connected with Adrian and they can start some roams, they can start some plays together, because this Thresh Elise combo in the early game is going to be extremely powerful. And knowing that CLG has had some of those early game struggles, especially in the bot lane, if they can get some work done there, it could be the key to Dignitas' victory in game
It is going to be very interesting to see the work that these teams have put in preparation for the third place match here.
All right, out onto the Rift for the first time today. Both teams taking off. As you can see, CLG a bit grouped up. Maybe they might be trying for something at level 1 here, as Dignitas fans out as their answer.
It's going to be worth noting that Adrian is actually playing Exhaust, not the Ignite, on Thresh here, so not going to be having that aggressive Summoner spell, as so many people commonly do with this champion.
Both supports opting for the Exhaust this game. The mid laners, you've got a heal on Keane, and you've got a cleanse on Huhi, so very defensive options coming out there as well.
Yeah, I kind of do like Exhaust when you're facing something like a Lucian. The range is short enough that it's pretty easy to get those off within team fights. And while the Ignite is nice for lane to try and get kills, definitely would want a little bit more security here for those 5-on-5s, as that's often what the games are boiling down to.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, what do you prioritize? Do you think you can dominate lane hard enough with the Ignite to actually make that more valuable than the Exhaust? And in this case, they're thinking perhaps it's going to be a more measured game, a slower game, as sometimes on these big stages, teams, especially in game 1, want to take a little bit of time to get acclimated, to get comfortable, and aren't going to play as aggressive early.
All right, into the bottom lane here, Altec and Adrian setting themselves up in the tri-brush. They've got the ward that spies their opponents waiting there in the river. You guys have already mentioned how the bot lane is likely to be a focal point, especially for Team Dignitas this game, so have to see if they can influence the early game here for that.
And while Team Dignitas did get that ward onto the enemy red buff, CLG are starting their blue at the moment. Don't have any early alert here, but they will see Jarvan come very late to lane, and Dignitas should be able to figure it out.
Next question is just going to be, is Shrimp actually going to go straight to CLG's blue? Does he actually realize what's going on? And so far he does not, so CLG has a chance at actually getting a 3 buff here.
Yep, Shrimp is pinged down onto the blue buff, realizing a little bit too late that CLG possibly could have started there, and indeed has.
And I like seeing these kinds of moves from CLG. Remember, this is a team that in the quarterfinals against Team Envy, they were the ones who were taken advantage of early on in the game, especially in the jungle. They're turning that on their opponents this time.
Setting up Omar for success early on in the match and in this series is definitely an important objective here for Counter Logic Gaming. They want him to feel as comfortable as possible on this large stage, but Shrimp on Elise still can hit level 3 off another camp and still is coming for that invade.
And OmarGod is actually still level 2 here, so he's going to have to be careful. Does get level 3 now, and Huhi is coming over. They want to fight.
Laps coming in. Shrimp looking to start off the fight. Huhi comes over the wall. Piercing Light comes out. Repel up into the air. Coming back down. Couple more auto attacks. Might be able to do it, but he will not find those. Keane on the defense, keeping his teammate alive.
So a large amount of damage dealt to Shrimp to push him back into the jungle, but because Huhi actually took a large source as well, he's going to have to go all the way back to base, and that is more punishing for the mid laner because Elise can just go spider form, use the small spiderlings to continue jungling, and it actually doesn't slow him down that much.
No, it really doesn't, but at least for CLG, it's giving their bot lane the freedom to actually push up there, to know that they are safe from Shrimp on this Elise in the early game, and that has given them a little bit of freedom, allowed them to deny some of the CS to Altec and Adrian under the turret.
And even though they shove him back into the jungle, more vision here on Shrimp and on OmarGod. So both junglers being tracked by the opposing teams. Shrimp still looking for another fight here.
He does not want to be 3-buffed. Omar very low on HP, wants to secure this blue. Slightly misses the smite, but he's still able to get in there.
Oh,
Shield keeps him safe from that cocoon.
And that's a flash actually down from Shrimp, so that is a key spell down there from the Dignitas jungler, and it's going to make CLG feel a lot more comfortable. Not having that flash cocoon for the early playmaking, the early ganks. It's a lot tougher for Elise to pull anything off.
Ssumday starting the fight up here against Darshan as well, utilizing his Spirit's Refuge to dodge away from the passive enchanted auto attack. Both of these top laners have had very strong performances for themselves throughout this split. Two of the guys that were always in the conversation for that top level of top laner in the North American LCS, now going head to head here in this third place match. I expect to see a lot of back and forth between these two.
Definitely two of the top laners with some of the better stats as well overall throughout the season. Hook here does land onto the bottom side, and a Black Shield's a little bit late.
It does stop the play from providing some extra CC on the end, but it will not stop Adrian and Altec from finding a nice chunk of damage there onto Stixxay. Stixxay and Aphromoo, though, still with a CS lead for themselves. So although they're on their back foot, although they're under their own turret, it's not hurting their economy.
And critically, Stixxay still does have potions available, so he's not really under that much threat yet. And the Ignite is not the summoner spell that was chosen from Adrian, so they don't have to worry too much. But I am very interested in CLG's early game so far, the planning around the early level 1 route, the new pick of the Sejuani for Omar, all speaks to preparation and trying to get him comfort, trying to enable him to succeed, as a lot of people were pointing to Omar as a weak point for CLG.
So far, he's working really well around Huhi in the mid lane, Huhi with the Lucian. Did have that early lane control as we saw before, and now he's going for an invade of his own. Does get the ward down, but Shrimp has seen him do it.
Tried to fire off that Scryer's Bloom to see if he could keep an eye on the camps or even on Shrimp himself.
Top side, though, could be in danger.
Omar and Shrimp in the 1v1, not going to be 1v1 for long. Two separate 1v1s now breaking out. Repel comes out, but he's not able to get himself away entirely from this fight. The burst comes through, and the first blood for CLG. Can they make it too? Ssumday with all the stacks on him, going to be stunned up now by OmarGod, knocked again there into the air. The Dragon Strike comes through, and Ssumday stands alone against the two members of CLG, now walking himself back into the top side. Ooh. Tries to dash away, but the Cataclysm will stop him. One more attack is canceled, and Ssumday will live.
Oh, he's getting baited back in now, though. Keane has made the roam up.
Keane coming in, he makes his rock surf up to the top side, but OmarGod's able to swoop in, tries to find the damage there, down onto his opponent. Ssumday falls. OmarGod gets the kill. Keane picking him up in retaliation. And we've got 1-for-1.
He's not done yet. Darshan gets back to his tower here to recall, but
now he's
getting started extremely quickly. So many minions in that little skirmish as well. They drill. Oh, never mind. We got some more action here. Adrian tries to continue the party on bottom side, but Aphromoo is going to go home early.
And this is just a crazy fight, but CLG wants to take it, knowing that Shrimp had expended his flash on the bottom side of the map.
And Sejuani now is so good in these skirmishes. They also have another melee champion up here to assist with stacking up the passive, and you can see how she turns this 2 versus 2 with those stuns and the damage that comes afterwards. Here is the ultimate from Keane, roaming up to the top side and trying to get this kill on Darshan, but Omar never left. And he tries to flash in there to finish off the extra damage. Heal means it's going to take a lot longer, but another Sejuani passive activation does get it for him. Then Keane flashes a little bit too far past his target. Still ends up getting the kill, though.
Pretty crazy fight, though. Darshan actually leveled up to 6 as he went back to lane, got a little bit more experience, and that's what prompted him to go back in on Ssumday.
And I love bringing up points that happened earlier that then you can see the consequence of later. Azael, you pointed it out how big it was when Shrimp lost his flash in that jungle invade. And that's what made that entire chain of events start in the first place. Otherwise, Shrimp might have been able to flash away, but because it wasn't available, there ends up going kills both sides.
Exactly, and despite the fact that Keane got up the top side and did get a kill there, he expended both of his summoners, and he is against Lucian, which is typically considered a pretty strong matchup, so we'll see if Huhi and OmarGod can actually meet up and get anything done there, especially with level 6 coming in pretty shortly on the Sejuani. Keane could be very vulnerable.
Darshan and OmarGod hanging around mid lane, smelling out that fact that Keane summoner spells are down, looking to make a play if they can, but Keane does have backup nearby in the form of Shrimp. Fires off the threaded volley, just scaring those guys away. Omar not really making any sort of plays anytime soon here. Does have the ultimate available though. Keane has a blue buff to clear out those waves.
Shrimp really wants another piece of this jungle matchup, but now he's a level down considering what went on up on the top side with that skirmish. So he's going to have a bit harder of a time. His bottom lane is pushing though, so that's kind of why he's going for these deep wards at the moment. He does have Altec and Adrian to rely upon.
All right, here we go. Another 1 versus 1 in the CLG jungle.
Not for long.
Trying to make this happen. He's got backup immediately. Ulti comes out. Shrimp is actually taking a lot of hurt. That blue buff comes right back down. Pulled away to safety by the power of the Dark Passage. CLG now pulling themselves back.
Easier too.
Carry taking some damage. Blue buff gonna reset. Patience meter making it difficult to pull this away for Team Dignitas. Binding comes over the wall, not finding anyone just yet. Another reset on the blue buff. It's a really impatient jungle monster today. Oh! Forward Adrian, not finding his mark for the play, however, does go back in with the death sentence. Not quite Shen all the way on the front line. Shrimp's gonna be ulted by the Shen Ssumday. Trying to now find himself some way to get a taunt out, but does not find it instead, just stealing away that blue buff. Dignitas gets what they came for, but it is a long, drawn-out process. Ssumday now bound up in the power of that Dark Binding.
And Darshan has walked all the way from top lane down to mid to try and push this. Maybe he cuts them off, but it's either way, it's going to route Team Dignitas away from their turret. And CLG may be able to push with this very extended, counter jungle there as Team Dignitas use their Shen ultimate and only come away with the blue buff.
Yeah, the blue buff victory, but what does that get you when your opponents take dragon?
Not a lot, and they also expended a couple summoners. It was actually flashes used by Adrian and Shrimp, and the heal is down there from Altec, so pretty expensive play on the bot side, especially when you consider how long the first Stand United cooldown is for Shen.
I think that the game plan coming in here for Team Dignitas was a good idea. Having Shrimp going aggressive with this Elise to try and pressure Omar. And see if they could get this rookie a little bit phased. But look at him, he's smiling here on stage. He stays cool during the invade, turns around, throws the Sejuani ultimate back and stuns Shrimp while he takes more damage from the monsters. It seems like he's able to react to all these situations fairly well so far, which does bode well for CLG's rookie.
It really does, especially when you consider that he's on the champion, which in my opinion scales better into the team fighting stage. Sejuani was much less about the early game, more about the mid game, the late game. In these team fights, this champion is a monster. So getting that confidence for OmarGod, who has been kind of shaken, who has been the target of this community criticism, is going to be key.
And speaking of OmarGod being shaken, just a quick update for you guys on the pause. It appears Omar may have spilled a little bit of his drink. So we're just cleaning that up real quick, and we should be back into game momentarily. Once that's taken care of, and his gaming station is back to full operating capacity.
That's how you know it was a successful counter jungle. Shrimp got him to spill his water over.
He spilled his water all over the place because he's trying to get away from this spider that just will not get away from his buffs.
Next level tactics here.
Playing the mind games.
All right, so even though Team Dignitas don't get much out of that play, and we were kind of building their composition up a lot around the Shen level 6 and the first Stand United, the teleports for both those top laners are going to be back up. And since Darshan also roamed down from the top side, it's not like Ssumday lost a lot on the top side. It just might be a little bit longer till another bottom lane play can come out.
Certainly the case. Also good kind of check in on the fact that Darshan still has his TP available, so he can answer the Stand United. He did not elect to actually TP for that first ultimate, so he is going to be even there and has been having a pretty good lane for himself. Darshan obviously is going to be kind of favored, you'd think, in these 1v1s once he starts to build up some items, especially if he's going for Black Cleaver, if he's going for more of this kind of split push style build, where Ssumday is going to be forced more into team fighting, more into making plays and grouping up.
And that's one of the things you see with the Jarvan. He's got the ability to burst squishier targets, but up against tanks, especially, as you said, with the Black Cleaver, you've got that armor shred. You've got the armor shred on his Q. It's going to take a lot of defensive stats for Ssumday to be able to have a good defense against that. And especially having wasted the Shen ulti the first time, Ssumday not quite finding the mark that he needed there. I don't know if you'd call it a complete waste. He did manage to potentially keep his jungler alive there, but they didn't get much of a reward for that use.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't wasted, but it's not what you're looking for. You're looking to be pressuring bot lane, but nice ultimate does land.
Nice pressure into mid lane. The chain CC comes out. Keane gonna be pulled to safety. Adrian there to protect his mid laner.
And that's why the Thresh has been so key for Team Dignitas. Adrian has been able to start off so many fights, but also the saves here. He does get Keane, and he gets Keane out without having to burn his flash. Multiple ultimates from CLG down in the process.
Keane does spin the heal, so one of those summoner spells was the sacrifice of the cost of the play there from CLG. They did get something for their ultimates. But like you said, not getting the flash, that means that safety is still there for the next one that comes around if Keane is able to react to that one in time. CLG up just ever so slightly in the gold, 200 to 300, 12 minutes in.
And generally you'd say an ultimate for a summoner is a good trade, but this is 3 ultimates for the 1 heal. Adrian definitely deserves a lot of credit. Right place, right time. This is one of the things we had kind of talked about, the fact that he has been roaming around with Shrimp. He has been in the right places at the right time, getting vision, defending his teammates and looking to make plays.
And once again, they've pushed in the mid lane. They're roaming down with the Taliyah, and Shrimp already has deep wards on Omar's camps. Team Dignitas are still trying to keep up this high pressure game, even though CLG have done pretty good job at weathering the storm.
Absolutely good job at weathering the storm. Also checking in on the bottom lane, we were talking about the matchup, how Dignitas' bottom lane had been doing so well for themselves after Altec and Adrian had met up as a duo and just done so much for this team, and how Stixxay and Aphromoo had struggled so far in the playoffs. But right now, this is a dead heat between these two. Point for point, the farm is even, the kills are even at 0-0-0. Nobody's getting the head down here just yet.
Yeah, and in a lot of cases, I think you would kind of favor Stixxay on this Kog'Maw in a situation like this, where you are able to go even on farm. Tristana obviously scales very well here too, but I do think that Tristana Thresh would be considered a stronger lane by most people.
Binding down onto Altec. Lantern is there, decides to jump away instead. Keeping himself alive, but taken down to about 1/4 HP. Stixxay and Aphromoo together. Aphro being able to hit those bindings.
Look at this though, another robe.
Available.
Weaver's Wall comes in, Stand United here, down onto Keane. Adrian into the back line as well. Aphromoo already dead. The taunt down onto Stixxay. Make it 2! Team Dignitas go up 3-2. They'll take down the turret as well.
Stixxay and Aphromoo doing just fine in the 2 versus 2, but it's a team game there, and Team Dignitas bringing the whole squad. There goes your first blood on the turret. CLG trying to push back through mid and top. There's a chance that they can actually get 2.
Ssumday trying to stop him, taunting there onto Huhi just to get the damage dealer away. Darshan having free time to wail on this top lane tier 1 though. Could potentially be able to answer it here, but like you said, turret first blood over to the way of Team Dignitas. That's a big gold influx going right into their pockets. 2K up now.
Plus, CLG have not actually been able to topple either of those turrets, even though they got 2 of them very low. No actual gold in their coffers right now to be able to go spend.
Yeah, Ssumday uses the TP, gets back to mid lane, is able to defend there, and Dignitas execute on this play that we were talking about from draft. This is what they wanted to execute, and this is what they needed to do with their composition. I love the proactivity of bringing down the Taliyah, bringing over the Shen. This is the earlier trade, perhaps giving CLG a little bit of confidence.
And I like this replay. If you look at the mini-map, there are a lot of good wards by Team Dignitas as well that we didn't quite shout out. Those defensive pink wards around mid lane allowed them to go for it. Darshan going deep onto Shrimp though.
Darshan popping the ulti, forcing the flash away from the Dignitas jungler in order to keep himself alive. CLG trying to respond to the counterplay of their own. They know this mid lane turret is very low. They need to take it.
And they expended the teleport here from Darshan to get this, so they really do want to try to force it down, but Adrian threatening the flank.
Fight coming out, Darshan, the one to jump in first, keeping himself away from the turret aggro. They just want to get the objective and get out, and it looks like they'll do it.
Stixxay is actually on the bot side pushing here as well. Ssumday is pushing on the top, but Stixxay will be able to knock down at least this one turret, and could be in trouble.
Oh, the flag and drag doesn't work! He got the flag, but he didn't get the drag!
It was a very good knockback there from Altec, able to break up the combo, so he is not in any danger and is able to escape with his life. Meanwhile, Team Dignitas also trying to rotate down. Ssumday on the top side is trying to finish off the end of the turret trades there, but so low here, should be able to finish it.
Yeah, he's still got a little bit of ways to go, but you can see no one from CLG making the rotation up there to try and stop that one. They know it's pretty much dead to rights. Top lane tier 1, not exactly the most valuable turret on the map anyway, so nobody's in a big hurry to save that one, as Shrimp instead makes a move onto the Rift Herald, not recognizing that he doesn't really have to go up there and help Ssumday, as CLG goes for Cloud Drake number 2.
And this is because they have traded sides of the map. We talked about it a lot, back in the days of the early lane swaps, but Counter Logic Gaming with their hard push on bottom side and the wards they left behind in that red quadrant are able to take the dragon, and they chase Shrimp off of the Rift Herald.
He goes back down to get it. He knows he's going to be killed, but he picks up that objective so that they have the Herald to push with after.
I mean, grabbing the Herald is not bad, but if they lose a turret because of this lack of pressure on the map now that Shrimp has gone down, at best, you're looking for an even trade there. CLG is trying to push up mid. Darshan back on the top side, looking to knock down that turret, which is pretty low as well.
Yeah, the Rift Herald could be activated around mid lane from the sides there to just one-shot that outer turret. And maybe Team Dignitas, if they get all the outers down, could start to get some deeper vision for themselves. But as of right now, it's mostly defensive.
I'm going to go ahead and jump in real quick on where we see the itemization at this point in the game. 17 minutes in, we're getting into the mid-game. Wits End, the first item completed on Stixxay's Kog'Maw. We see a lot of different builds on Kog'Maw these days.
So I actually think the Wits End is pretty intelligent here. It's a relatively quick item that you can actually complete, and it's magic damage essentially being dealt by pretty much everyone that's going to get on Stixxay besides Altec. Altec, they're expecting is going to be pushed back by this combo of J4 and sejuani. So when you look at the damage coming out of the rest, Shen is actually dealing a lot of magic damage with his Q pass-through. Taliyah, full magic damage. Elise, magic damage. Even the box, the flay, spells like this are magic damage from the Thresh. So this is actually giving him quite a bit of extra survivability, as well as a bit of an earlier power spike.
And that's the difference from him rushing Rage Blade or doing this first. The Rage Blade, once you complete it, would be a little bit more DPS, but there are defensive options as well. Right now, it's all about that vision around the mid lane here. Everybody waiting in the bush.
Ooh, the Weaver's Wall coming out. Dignitas looking to start this off on a CLG, finding the taunt onto Huhi as Keane comes in from the side. Meanwhile, another fight going to be breaking out on the top part of the river here. Stixxay finding a lot of damage there into Adrian, bringing down that living artillery. As Dignitas now has to retreat, not able to find the collapse onto CLG's mid laner.
And that was a 4 versus 5 defense there from CLG to evade that engage, and so much counter damage dealt from Stixxay. He gets the black shield on the Kog'Maw, doesn't have to worry about that CC, and is able to almost take down Adrian as he runs away.
And not only do they get the summoners out of Dignitas, that means they get the solo gold for this turret onto Darshan, kind of catapulting him quickly towards these items, and Stixxay looking for more.
All of a sudden, this game is dead even in gold, gentlemen. Black Shield keeping Stixxay safe as he presses up and finds that free hit time onto the enemy AD carry. CLG now doing what was so difficult for Dignitas, stealing away that enemy blue buff. Ssumday taunts out as CLG continues.
Team Dignitas should be able to reset here, and that's definitely what they need at this moment. Their Stand United is available, so if they can get Shen down into a side lane to start pushing, then they would be able to get some pressure for themselves, but they're unable to reset as CLG continue to push on that minion and get another turret.
CLG could just go for the inhibitor here. There's actually multiple Dignitas members still out on the map, but the Rift Herald has been dropped, and this does kind of change the math on this. CLG going to be heading back to base.
CLG get themselves back as the Dignitas push comes in, and a big headbutt will knock that sucker over.
That Rift Herald definitely was worth it for Shrimp to go back and get. Kind of trump card there, putting a stop to CLG's push and getting a large amount of damage down the mid lane. They took the outer turret, the entire second turret, and a pretty big chunk on that inhibitor turret. So good little counter push there from Team Dignitas. They are as well in the gold lead after getting that extra turret.
First full item, I should say, now purchased for Altec as well. The Static Shiv finally coming online for this guy. Tristana is going to take a little while to come online. Normally you do want to see the 3 crit items on her before she really becomes that big team fight threat. But now he's well on his way, considering he has all the pieces for the Infinity Edge too. That'll be coming along before too much more time goes on.
And it's kind of nice for Altec in this game because no one is really building any armor whatsoever on CLG because it's mostly magic damage coming out of Dignitas. And that means that he can actually just go straight for this IE Static Shiv and rapid fire cannon build without having to kind of take a little segue to grab any armor penetration.
And right now, boys, we are now cresting that 20-minute mark. We're into the point of the game where Baron is live, and Dignitas is a team that lives and dies.
Oh, TP coming in from Darshan.
CLG looking to come in, find a collapse. Shrimp flashing over the wall, trying to escape, utilizing the blast gun, but he's found his way right back into the normal fight. Darshan grabbing the final hit onto him. Dignitas full retreat. Stixxay gets the kill down onto Keane. 3 dead on Dig. Huhi's gonna make it 4. A double for the Kog'Maw.
This could be the Baron for CLG. It has spawned. They're going to go straight for it 21 minutes into the game. The 4 for 0 for CLG.
Pivotal call there by Counter Logic Gaming, and they will easily be able to pick this one up. The only option for Ssumday is to go try and push a side lane here, but there's no objective for him to get back in. Counter Logic Gaming take commanding lead here in the opening game.
I said it and I meant it, boys. Dignitas dies and lives by Baron Nashor. They managed to lose control of it just 21 minutes into the game. This bodes very well for CLG.
Let's take a look at the opening to this play. They've got deep wards here, so they call for the teleport from Darshan, and Huhi cuts off Shrimp, almost completely kills him. Darshan goes to engage on the rest of the squad there with Omar, landing that sejuani ultimate, and he's able to flash out. Then Altec, it's hard for Team Dignitas. It looks like their communication was not able to keep track of all the members of CLG, as that was a two-part collapse coming through the jungle as well as straight up the mid lane. And, you know, he jumps over the wall, then flashes back. They were unable to keep track of all the threats.
And CLG created so much space for Stixxay in that fight. He was untouched completely. He now has a completed Rage Blade. When you look across the board for CLG, these 2-item power spikes are starting to really come in, and Lucian and Kog'Maw and even the Sejuani on these 2 items are going to be exceptionally powerful with this Baron buff.
That's why we drone on and on about vision and keep on mentioning wards, because they have the extra vision. It allows you to make the calls for those types of collapses. And you get a flanking Lucian here on the Elise, which completely breaks the entire team fight. Now Huhi's pushing on bottom while the rest of the squad are right in mid, but Aphro's gonna blow up!
Aphromoo, the bomb on his head. Ooh, that last second heal to keep him alive. CLG coming down to this bottom part of the map now to take down the tier 2 there, grab themselves another turret, continue building that Baron power play.
The preparation here is so good from CLG, and they're actually looking for a fight.
But Darshan's gonna be pulled in. The burst onto him is enough. Altec grabbing that kill. The repel out from Shrimp. The damage comes through. The kill to Adrian. Shrimp drops next. It's a 1 for 2 so far, favoring CLG. Aphromoo is low, but has not been taken out. Finds the route there onto Ssumday. CLG's push continues.
And CLG can always retreat back to the Dragon if they want, but they're going to look for the inhibitor here.
Weaver's wall to try to block them away. It's not going to do the job, though. Ssumday having to retreat all the way back. The flash out. Altec nearly taken down. Pops the heal. The stun from OmarGod will not stun him up in time as he tries to retreat away. Aphro getting brought down. Omar having to flash out. Very low health bars on the side of CLG.
Ssumday wants to chase him down through the jungle, but they don't have any extra speed, and it's a double cloud break CLG, so they should be able to walk their way out of this jungle and look for a reset here.
They can probably just grab this Dragon. Warmogs was actually already purchased for OmarGod, so he's back to full health with that regen clicking in. And they're going to be able to grab their 3rd straight Dragon, so such good objective control here from CLG, and they decide to get aggressive when going up to the inhibitor.
Yeah, once again, no hesitation. Even though Darshan gets chain CC'd in, as we had talked about in Champ Select, he leaves behind the Cataclysm, and that's what he'll be remembered for. He keeps 2 members of Team Dignitas stuck in the pit, and they go down in exchange.
I was a little bit surprised to see CLG actually decide to try to dive past the turret for this last inhibitor. They have the Baron minion coming in. They look for the play. They're trying to get back onto Altec, thinking maybe they can actually go for Nexus turrets if they're able to finish him off, but he does escape. And Keane is getting so much damage out on the side throughout this whole time, really pushing CLG back.
Aphromoo's Black Shields are doing a lot of work in there too. You saw them protecting Huhi from all the CC and the knockaround coming in from Keane's Taliyah there. Actually maxing the Black Shield on this Morgana. 5 points in that, 4 in the binding. Doesn't even bother taking this from into soil. Now the fight breaking out here on the inhibitor. OmarGod going to be knocked back a little bit. Ssumday also soaking a lot of damage there. Dashing back to the sejuani ultimate. Inhibitor down to 1/3 HP. Make it 1/4. Darshan now jumping in, dropping the Cataclysm yet again. Stun up onto him. Exhaust down as well. Altec's able to find 1 kill, but Keane drops to Huhi. CLG now in retreat. Not quite going to be bound up by the cocoon. OmarGod looking to come back in, but a double kill for Altec, who now has to find his way back out of the fight. A double for Stixxay. 2 left alive on the side of Dignitas. 3 for CLG. The push now on to the Nexus turrets themselves.
This could actually be the game here for CLG. They're looking to close this one out. They're going straight for these Nexus turrets. Altec needs to make a move.
Altec has got to find some sort of a hero play here, but Stixxay's damage output is huge. Adrian drops, Stixxay dominating. Altec the last man standing.
And Omar can just back off and get the Warmogs regen once again. They are left with no Baron buff, so the siege stops now, but CLG are just keeping this game at an extremely quick pace here, very deep into Team Dignitas' base, trying to stabilize now.
And they've picked up so much gold from all these turrets now. 8 turrets taken down off the map with that last Nexus turret falling. They've opened up a pretty big gold lead. These item completions are coming in. And CLG, I mean, OmarGod paying some homage to Smithy here with this ultimate.
Whoosh! Right down the middle, but it doesn't end up mattering too much as CLG, they're able to deal a decent amount of damage while taking down the inhibitor. As you said, Darshan goes in, lays the Cataclysm down once again, but even with that, it was a little bit touch and go here as Altec was able to get off a lot of counter damage until this re-engage.
Yeah, the key member for CLG is Stixxay. He is untouched in these fights. As soon as the Black Shield comes back up, his W goes back up, he has the confidence to move forward knowing he cannot be crowd controlled.
And even though Huhi has higher kill participation than him with the 405 score, 6 of those last hits have gone to the Kog'Maw, really fueling this war machine. Now with 3 items on him, plus the Ardent Sensor for Aphromoo, who is reliably proccing his Ardent Sensor on multiple people. It looks like CLG can keep up this pace as well.
This is a scary situation to be in for Team Dignitas. 6,000 gold behind their opponents. You guys already talked about the power of these 2 carries on the side of CLG. And honestly, Darshan has just been fearless this whole game as well, recognizing the fact that it's his job to go in, not walk out alive, and he has been setting these team fights up wonderfully for Counter Logic Gaming.
Remember, there's no Stand United available for Shen here.
Altec caught out, having a flash away. Darshan going there into the back line, and the dunk to take down the enemy AD carry as CLG now looking to push for that win. Stixxay flashing out himself, nearly getting caught out by the wall as more damage comes through. Dignitas continues to drop. CLG puts the damage in the inhibitor itself, and the push will not stop today. They want to end this game. 1 Nexus turret stands in their way. Keane trying to stop them. Huhi gonna be bound up there. The damage coming out onto him, nearly gonna be bursted down. Instead gets away. 4 dead on Dig, 5 dead on Dig. And ladies and gentlemen, not even 30 minutes in, CLG takes game 1.
Such an impressive early performance here for CLG in this 3rd place match. The preparation, the jungle pathing, how they allow OmarGod to succeed was so pivotal.
And even before that, breaking up the composition that Team Dignitas have already used with this Morgana. The Black Shield, as you said, was pivotal. Aphromoo is kind of one of the classics for him, and CLG with a very quick opening game to this set.
They covered their weaknesses, they showed off their strengths, they had a clean victory over Team Dignitas. Close for a while, but then as soon as that fight happened at Baron, it was non-stop to the finish line.
I mean, this is exactly what you want to see as a CLG fan. Their solo lanes were still successful. Their jungler and their bot lane also really successful in this game, something that had been missing throughout some of the playoffs, and they looked really good. And if this is the CLG that shows up for this series, Dignitas has got to be worried.
Yeah, Dignitas will definitely have to find a way to rally and change some things in game number 2, whether it's their composition or how they execute, where they focus. CLG had their number this game.
Definitely true. And especially around some of these early skirmishes, so much different from the past series that we have seen with them, much more crisp.
It seemed like they just had a new kind of focus in this game especially, but for more on how CLG took game 1, let's send it over to Dash and the analysts.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. CLG looking good, feeling good after game 1 there. 1 fight was all it took to kind of break open a game that was relatively even up until that point. CLG striking strong and hard here in game 1 against Dignitas, who looked favored coming into the weekend.
Yeah, I think a couple things went well for CLG this time around. So first off, OmarGod got off the ground pretty efficiently with the kind of blue buff invade that they went for into the 3 buff. There was a lot of pressure put on him, but his team did a good job reacting to all that, as well as the fact that during all this was going on, their bot lane was actually getting an advantage in the first 5 minutes of the game. So there are 2 weaknesses that we saw so far in the playoffs seem to bounce back pretty well so far in game 1.
And I think that's accentuated by the team comps, right? We heard the casters talking about Dignitas' comp wants to push the pace with the Elise, the jungle matchup, making sure we have pushing lanes, utilizing that Shen at level 6. And to their credit, they made the attempts, right? With those invades, they just didn't get as much out of each of those moves as they maybe would have expected.
Exactly. I mean, they did get 3 buffed at the start of the game, and then every time they'd roam the Shen down, aside from 1 early play, it didn't really result in much. And then the COG team is all about power spikes. You want to get the Black Cleaver, Blade of the Ruin King on Lucian, you want to get the Ardent Sensor on Morg, and you want to get the Wit's End and the Rage Blade on Kog'Maw. And once they got to those points without falling behind, they really knew how to turn it on. So if we're talking about which team was more in the moment and didn't back down from the stage, it was absolutely CLG this game because they were almost over-willing to pull the trigger. You usually see the opposite when you're on a stage this big. They were jumpy this game, and a lot of the plays worked.
Yeah, I mean, especially around with Darshan, there were a lot of opportunities to get even further ahead. He could have played a little greedier, but you know, they're known for being the team players. That one of the criticisms against Darshan is sometimes he's too willing to put himself out there. But it still worked out this game because he was able to find good angles.
Let's take a look at one of the early plays that went in favor of Dignitas here. 13 minutes in, 2-for-0 dive in the bot lane. This is what we're talking about. The COP should look like.
Exactly. This is the type of play that Team Dignitas wanted to make more of. Just an absolute obliteration of the COG bottom lane in their turret. They can get 5 people down there so quickly that it doesn't really matter. But one thing in that play was Shrimp was on the way down, but didn't even make it for the dive. He ran down there. And then if we think about the plays that backfired, it was Shrimp getting caught out or Shrimp getting 3-buffed. And the biggest detriment to Team Dignitas in this game, we've talked a lot about how OmarGod has been a liability for CLG and how OmarGod hasn't been performing. It was Shrimp who didn't perform in this game and Shrimp who got shut down.
And he was one of the big things that when heading into the playoffs initially against C9, people were saying this could be a bad matchup. He actually did great in that series versus Contracts, but this is the one big question mark aside for Keane, who sometimes has some struggles as well.
Moving now to our Acer replay here in Game 1. 20 minutes since, 4-for-0 for CLG. This is the fight that turned it all. Once again, brought to you by Acer.
This is exactly what Jack was talking about with the big power spikes. You see Huhi obliterate Shrimp on the top side of the fight while the 4-man core of CLG is working down the mid lane. Altec seems to have a communication breakdown, doesn't realize that Huhi was up there, tries to flash off to finish off Darshan, not able to do that. That puts him in range of Huhi to kill him, and this fight goes from not so good to an obliteration, 4-for-0, and they lose Baron.
Yeah, and it was Shrimp, Keane that got caught at the start of that fight. And when you have that lack of communication in such a pivotal fight, it is a worry. I do feel like Team Dignitas has to settle in because they clearly look like they had a little bit of nerves coming into this game.
Very much so. You saw the damage there out of Stixxay on the Kog'Maw, 23K, 10K, 11K over his opponent there in the bot lane from Altec. But if we're going to talk about the bright spots for Dignitas moving forward, I thought that Adrian looked very good here in Game 1 in terms of his positioning. We saw many a time him in the right position with that Thresh to lantern someone out to safety, kind of nullify some of the moves that CLG did make.
I think this is one of those series where based off Game 1, it can still go either way. Dignitas did execute their game plan with the Taliyah Shen once around the bot lane. They tried a couple other times that didn't work, so it seems like they're in the right frame of mind at least. They didn't seem shy or anything like that. It just seems a couple plays did not break their way, so they could run a similar comp in Game 2, and I could see them winning it.
But would you want them to run a similar comp, where if things don't go your way in the early game, you end up getting outscaled through the mid game and then simply can't do anything? Or should they look to kind of itemize a little bit more towards the late game and say, hey, we're happy to go toe-to-toe with you 5v5?
The one thing I'll say is that CLG had basically the worst goal difference at 15 of teams still playing in the playoffs, so it was understandable to take the Elise in these kind of more aggressive early game picks to try and snowball. I don't mind that game plan, just make sure your Elise isn't set behind early.
Yeah, I will say it's an incredibly promising first game for CLG. The fact that they were able to make plays and the fact that they were working well with OmarGod. Hesitation was a big word for CLG, especially when watching OmarGod in playoff games leading up to this, but he definitely seemed like he was on the same page instead of one page behind of CLG this game, which is something we haven't seen from Omar in the playoffs.
I think that's a huge point, right? Not all the spells were hitting necessarily, but we saw him working in accordance with the rest of the members on his team. So fine, the Sedge ult misses, but he's still there acting at the same time and with the same objective as the remaining members of CLG.
And very important to not be getting abused in the early game, because Dignitas still made repeated attempts. They went for his Raptors after they realized they lost their blue, and Huhi reacted appropriately. And then around the blue buff invade, once again, the whole team collapses and makes sure that he's not shoved off of that and they're able to get a dragon on the back.
Final point I want to ask you, Jad, is about the top laners. We talk a lot about the rookies. Let's talk about some of the veterans to big stages, people like Ssumday, people like Darshan. Right. This is a really key matchup here. We had the Shen versus the Jarvan. How do you expect this one to kind of develop and evolve throughout the series?
I mean, we were expecting the Jarvan to win that matchup, and I thought Darshan was playing a little bit over-eager, but didn't pay for it. I thought Ssumday was playing fairly appropriately the whole game, aside from the one bad Shen ult in the deciding team fight. So I think this can definitely go either way. Round 1 does go to Darshan because his team won, but I wouldn't say the top lane had any huge say in that game.
Only Game 1. Game 1 goes to CLG. And now while we're celebrating our finals weekend in this incredible venue, it's important to remember the families and those affected by the devastation of Hurricane Harvey. Our thoughts are with the community who bravely worked to rebuild in the wake of such a disaster. You can do your part in helping by contributing to the Greater Houston Community Foundation at ghcf.org/hurricane relief. That's ghcf.org/hurricane relief. We have to step away for a moment. When we come back, we resume with Game 2 of CLG versus Team Dignitas.